There we go. Okay. My name is Joey, and I've got too much energy. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 12. Started my first company, and I was fixing computers in my neighborhood, and I was putting flyers in the mailboxes of people's houses, and the post guy gave me a ticket. So that was number one, and that sucked. In any case, I moved on, and I began to witness some of the problems in society, and to me it had to do with sadness. I was looking at systemic sadness across people's faces all the time, and I couldn't figure out what was really driving that at a young age. And as I began to contemplate life into my early 20s, I realized that part of the problem was people felt totally disconnected from that which was running their lives, or they felt disconnected from the things that are feeding their lives or supporting it, feeling disconnected from that which sustains and supports their own life. And then beyond that, I also started to read some environmental publications. I read a magazine called Colors, and it was talking about the world's problem with trash. And by the end of the vehicle, I started crying. I went over to my computer, and I sold my car on eBay. I was just like, get it out of here. And it was an RX-7. It was fast, and I loved it. And I had saved up all my pennies to buy it, and there it went. And I said to myself, I've got to find a sustainable way of doing this, or I'm not down. I just won't drive. And so I got into all this research, and I looked to, well, Germany, because that was the only place that I could really find stuff back in the mid to late 90s. And it turned out that they were running vehicles on straight vegetable oil. Well, that blew my brain. I was like, wait a minute. You mean I can grow a plant in my backyard, squeeze it in a coffee grinder 100 times in the next 16 hours, fill up my tank, and drive? And I thought that was pretty cool. So I started to focus on that. And what was happening to me in that period of time was, I didn't realize at that point, I didn't have the vernacular or the context or the understanding, because I didn't go to university, which I'll talk about in a sec. I had just witnessed innovation dawn on my own mind, and the excitement that came along with it. And my deliverables were, it had to be completely sustainable. It had to occur in perpetuity in order to be aligned with Mother Nature, in order to be aligned with our carrying capacity as a planet, in order not to dump so much either into the ground, the rivers, and or the air, that we would essentially see our own die-off, which was totally possible in my mind at that time. And truthfully, still is kind of possible in my mind, depending on which direction we choose as a species. So for me, it was like, oh wow. So I found this one solution. I figured to myself, I was like, all right, now I get it. People just haven't seen this. If they were to see it, they'd all be on board tomorrow. So just show them. And so that was the idea. Never mind economics. Never mind whatever, the fact that canola is now 10 bucks a bushel, which we'll also talk about, and the fact that it probably would cost you around 300 bucks a tank right now to run on canola. That didn't mean anything to me back then. It was, I just need to infect people with this glorious idea of running on vegetable oil. Long story short, I went through the process of starting up a vegetable oil-powered charter bus company, vegetable oil-powered billboard company with VW vans running on vegetable oil that had billboards on them that were going to advertise for sustainable companies and other sustainable technology. Never got off the ground. I was going to do vegetable oil-powered generators at that time. Never got off the ground. And I was also going to do a taxi cab service in Vancouver that ran on vegetable oil, which never got off the ground. So, part of the story here is entrepreneurialism is a spirit, and it says never say die. And entrepreneurialism is a spirit of constant innovation and never being down for too long. Constantly focusing on the ideals that are in your heart and driving for it. Because if I was to know how long it was going to take me when I got into this stuff, I would have said no way. I would have gone and lived in the woods or something like that. Because year 1 and 2, I'm like, I'm almost there. Year 7, here I am. I'm almost there. So I'm still saying it. But the point is that it's renewing. It's refreshing. In any case, so that moved along, and what I needed was the sophistication to see the completion of some of these things. And I'm saying to myself, what is happening here? Got all these great ideas, and others have them too. And this vision of sustainability is real, and I can hold it in my mind's eye, and I can find all the parts and pieces, and it's happening somewhere in the world. All these things are happening somewhere in the world. Well, the problem was the economic context. A lot of these solutions were extravagant. For example, and a lot of them have hurdles, a lot of social barriers around them. I bet 90% of you would not perform the maintenance on a composting toilet if somebody paid you 100 bucks. I bet you would. It's called peak knocking. Gross. So in any case, there are all these barriers to entry in the marketplace. They were monetary, they were financial, they were social, and et cetera, et cetera. We get, humans, we're kind of like hobbits in that, in some ways we're totally entrepreneurial. In other ways, we love our comfort and our mashed potatoes. It's like, sure, you can ask people to ebb and flow 5% from their means or their norm. You ask them to go 30%, and they're like, man, you're crazy, I'm out of here. And so that's also a part of it. Now, so I'll say this. The technologies that have been witnessed at this point, the technologies that I have vetted as a professional, a technologist, an entrepreneur, someone in the sustainable field, looking for energy solutions and beyond, are limitless. There are thousands of technologies that I've looked at. There's about 400 that I've deeply vetted, and there are thousands and thousands more that other people are vetting right now. So the technological barriers don't exist, which is to say the technology is there. The context and the economic framework, that's a different picture, which I'll talk about in a sec. But to finish on technology just briefly here is it's arriving. It has arrived. And the touch on the entrepreneurial spirit is an entrepreneur is someone in a community of people who takes the risk and eats risk for breakfast because they don't even know they just did it. They're too silly or stupid. They're just, like, you just do it. And then later you turn around and someone says, do you realize that you were standing in front of a 1,000-foot cliff? And you go, I had no idea. That's an entrepreneur. So, and they exist all amongst us. They're in this room. Here we are. So that's the spirit. That's what's hopeful here, right? That we're not totally strictly complacent. And in fact, we can get our fire lit. And that whole part about witnessing the sadness of people was mostly about the fact that people are utterly dispassionate about their lives. What are they going to work on? I'm going to go work in that office tower and punch keys like a monkey, and then I'm going to become a senior ape when I'm 70, and then I'm going to retire. Sweet. Right? So I would, I almost went broke for the last 6 years. I was on such a chicken scratch lifestyle until I started to bring in some revenue based on my ludicrous experiences. But I didn't mind. I lived 03. I think I made $12,000. And 2 times I had to write my community of friends and say, need socks and beer. And they showed up. But that's happiness. And that whole time I would never trade it in. That was some of the best years of my life. And so I guess that's the point. Some people fear economic status. They fear the repercussions of taking a chance. And to that I say, build strong relationships. Make friends. Because if there's a lot of love in your sphere, which is to say, if you're honest and integral with people, they're going to support you when you need it. And they'll do it without asking. So that's also part of this. The culture of solutions is one of integral relationships in which we spread out like a web. And we're honest with each other so that when we really need something, we can tell people and get a response out of them. Because they too want to be a part of the culture of entrepreneurship. So let's move into context. What's happened since I started? Oh, okay. Oil was 20 bucks, 16 bucks a barrel when I started on this whole tirade. And now it's 100 bucks a barrel. And natural gas was somewhere around $3.75 a gigajoule. And it just bumped $10 a few days ago. And coal was wicked dirt cheap. And well, coal just increased in price 19% this year. China is consuming 1.5 billion tons of coal a year. I want to draw that into perspective. Raise your hands if you heard of the beetle infestation in the forest. The pine beetle. Okay, good. The pine beetle is about to harvest our forest for us. And the amount of timber that's going to be culled out of the forest in order to prevent this problem from spreading, despite the fact that we could have stopped it years ago, 70 million tons of timber is going to come out of the forest. And I want to put that in perspective. So typically the forest industry in a whole year is going to harvest somewhere between 10 and 20 million tons for lumber and for paper and all this sort of stuff. No, 70 million tons of trees are going to come out of the forest. They need to be incinerated. Now, take that again and think about China's using 1 billion tons of coal. So that's the whole Canadian forest standing like times 20 every year. So, and now they're going to be at 2 billion tons by 2020. That's crazy. So the reason that the price is up 19% this year is because, yeah, their dollar's way stronger than the US dollar. And now they're going to leverage it to advance their people. And they deserve every standard or quality of life that we have defined that is good to have. And they're going to have it. They're absolutely going to have it because they've got a way of going about things that's systematic, and they're still integral. They're actually building wealth as opposed to living off of the debt financing of their mothers and fathers, which is the standard US consciousness. That's the standard mode of living. Leverage everything, buy the lifestyle, leverage the house, buy some more, oh no. So the US is no right now, right? They're like, oh no, what do we do? All right, well this is great because they really needed a correction, big time, and so did we, by the way. So we're going to have to tighten the belt in order to maintain the standard of living that we call well-being. Well, this isn't the case, because I think that through a bit of crisis and potentially suffering, that we might find real relationships again, which is the funny backshot and paradox of a depression, or of a recession. You talk to Montreal, people in Montreal say the best day that ever happened was when the power wouldn't go on. They said that they actually met their neighbors for the first time, they lit candles and had dinner. All right, so it's not so bad. Now, you don't want the power to be off for 20 days because the food rots and then people start to fight and stuff like that. So the point is here, economics are driving change now. The market signals that we would have liked to have seen in a more linear fashion are arriving daily. You know, the prices of every commodity are going bonkers. Food is up 22% this year. Wheat's trading for 20 bucks a bushel. It used to trade for 2. This is real. This has arrived. This is not a bubble. This has been created by 7 billion people's needs, and the increase of wealth and the mismanagement of money. And so we've got this global superstorm of issues, which I say, all right, sweet. Now we've got a context. Now we have an economic context in which sustainable solutions can compete.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about those solutions, right? And we're here to talk about the timing of those solutions because entrepreneurialism is about timing. No, I didn't get any of those operations up and running in 02 and 03 and 04, and thank God I didn't. I'd be running them right now as opposed to looking at all the neat opportunities I get to look at now. Hopefully I'll do some of them. Maybe one of them someday. But the point here is that that's arriving. Those economics are becoming good. I know of 30 technologies right now for turning biomass into electricity. Yeah, they're economic. They became economic like last month. So let's do it. You know, that's the point. BC just put a call out for proposals. Turn these trees into energy. They got 86 proposals. They had to hire people just to handle all the paperwork, and that's because the economics work now. Now, if we're going to talk about technology, raise your hand if you're into nanotech. Well, good for you, because you're going to be buying us all lunch someday. That's unbelievable. We have a current set of technologies right now that is capable of meeting our needs in terms of motile power, transport, in terms of electricity and heat. Is it going to require conservation first? Absolutely. 85% of the solution is going to come from conservation. But the rest of it is going to be made up by sustainable sources. But we move it in 2014, 2020, 2025, nanotech is going to blow the top off what we thought was possible. Absolutely. The miniaturization of mechanization, machines a nanometer or 10 nanometers across, able to catch molecules out of the air and present you a weave of nanocarbon in a sheet that you fold like this and say, nanobots, I want a house. And they farm out this house out of the carbon sheet. And you're like, I want R100. They stuff in the insulation and then pour carbon fiber and nanobots, back in my pocket. Thanks, nanobots. Thank you, nanobots. And then they're going to make these like little windmills that you can't even see, and that's going to power the house. So the point is, read some Ray Kurzweil, get hopeful again about the future technology, but do not become complacent about the change that's about to occur. All of our lives are going to be affected. We're witnessing an event that has never happened. It's called the redistribution of wealth across the world, which is being mandated right now due to hyper-localization of what we eat and what drives our lives. So prepare for it. And if you're an engineer, then you're an engineer at the right time. Stay open-minded and don't get dogmatic, and maybe oil and gas isn't the industry to go into. Thanks.